Let me share something truly exciting with you. Are you ready to embark on a journey to a life filled with happiness, abundance, peace, purpose, and say yes to life every day? Then say yes and get the new Create Happy Meditations app coming out in just a couple of weeks. It all begins with quieting your mind. That's why I've created the Create Happy Meditations app. Our app introduces you to the Moment Maker's Happy Method, a transformative approach to living your best life. First, we guide you in calming your mind with a personalized meditation practice. Then it's about discovering and loving yourself, unlocking those obstacles to your peace and purpose. And finally, we dive into the art of manifesting, attracting abundance and fulfillment into your life. Now, we offer 3 levels of membership. The first level provides access to tailored meditations and a growing library of guided practices. Upgrade to the silver level for a deeper self-discovery. And the gold package, the juiciest package, is the complete Moment Maker's Happy Method. Just like me, our users have manifested their dreams after mastering the Happy Method. And here's an exclusive offer for you. Sign up for the Create Happy Meditations waiting list before we go live, and you'll receive 20% off the gold package forever. Plus, enjoy continuous updates and direct access to me as part of this gold package. Don't miss out on this opportunity to create your happiest life. Visit www.createhappynow.com and go to the apps tab and sign up today. Let's start this journey together. Create Happy Meditations, your path to a life with happiness, abundance, peace, purpose, and say yes to life every day. My next guest is Jeanne Collins. Jeanne is an award-winning interior designer who left the corporate world behind to find her true self through design and internal reflection. Her firm, JerMar Designs, works with executives and entrepreneurs, focusing on projects that combine sophistication and balance with inner and outer wellness. Jeanne is an Architectural Digest Ad Pro in 2024 featured designer, winner of the 2022 Luxe Magazine Red Award, and she was also recently nominated as the HGTV Designer of the Year. She chronicles her journey and the approach that changed her life and work in her memoir, 2 Feet In: Lessons from an All-In Life. Jeanne, I just want to jump right in and have you tell your story so the listeners can get a better idea of who you are.
Thank you so much, Susan, for having me. I love it. And I love the subject of your podcast. So happy and creating it is fabulous. So thank you for having me as a guest. So my story is pretty deep, but I'm going to give you the really short abbreviated version of it, with focusing on what happened to me a little bit more than 4 years ago. That is really what's changed my life the most.
Okay.
So from a career perspective, I spent 22 years as an advertising sales executive working for public companies. So I say I reported to Wall Street because when you run a sales team, you're only as good as your last quarter. So I ran an East Coast sales team for an advertising company and did that, like I said, for 22 years. I was a single parent the entire time. And in January of 2020, right before COVID and right before I turned 50, I got fired. And I never thought, the higher you get to the top, the closer you are to getting fired. And I knew that, but I kind of always felt like I'm the only woman in this sandbox and they're not going to fire me. And I'm really good at what I do. But lo and behold, when you do a restructure and find people that are less expensive than you to do the same job, out you go because business is business. And so I was about to turn 50 and it was also right before the lockdown. COVID was kind of like brewing in the back of everybody's mind. And I really had to figure out who I was, and not only who I was, but who I wanted to be in life, because I really felt like I was hitting the midlife crisis of life, about to turn 50. And
Well, you don't look a day over 35. I mean,
well, thank you. I'm 53 now, going on 54. So thank you so much for that. But I really didn't know like what was my purpose. And, if people ask you, who are you? And I would always say, I'm a single mom and I'm a vice president of sales. Well, you're not putting either of those things on your tombstone. So who in the world am I as a person? And I also didn't realize how stressed and unhappy I was in my life until I didn't have that life anymore. And I didn't
Wow.
have those definitions of who I was as a person. So I
Mhm.
really had to take a massive pause and I was like, okay, this is a big fork in the road here. And what I decide is really pivotal to my future. And I decided to take a huge chance and I decided I wanted to love what I did for a living. And I thought I had to work another 20 years for sure as a single parent. Definitely have another 20 years in me. I just did 22 and I had so much success. So
Mhm.
imagine what I could create of my life of the next 22. And
Yeah.
so I decided to follow my passion and go from advertising sales for a public company and become an entrepreneur and start an interior design business. So in a
Nice.
completely different field that of which I had no like professional experience, no degree, no nothing. I knew nothing about being an entrepreneur. But that was the career choice I made, and that was a huge one. And ever since that, that has drastically changed everything about my life and who I am. And then a year and a half later, I decided I was going to write a book. So now I'm an author and now I'm a speaker and now I'm starting another third business. And so it changed everything about my life. And I love to share my story because I always say to people, I've never been happier or I've never felt like I'm more on the path to who I'm supposed to be than I am now. And what I've learned in that journey over the last 4 years has just been so life altering. And my goal with my book was to share my story in the hopes that I can inspire others to, to find that, to find the inner peace and to find they're happy.
That's awesome. I love that story.
Thank you.
And I I think that there's a lot of people out there that are coming to the same conclusions these days. They're just not taking the standard norm of success makes you happy because they're finding that it's not. I think they're
Right.
finally realizing that they're stopping mid-career and going, "Hold on a minute. I see where this is going and it's not getting me to happiness." So, that's that's what I'm kind of excited about because that is, um, the people that we're really craving to help, because it's those that are just stopping going, "Hey, wait a minute. There's gotta be more to life than this
And this, and
this
there
part
is.
that
Yeah.
this life that's sucking the life out of me and
Right.
making me, because what we're learning is that, oh, you have all of these bullet points that we are supposed to meet and milestones, and you hit them and you're like, "Oh, I'm happy," but then it's fleeting. It goes away, and then you gotta go to the next thing, or you want more. It's never not enough, and that's because we're finding happiness out here and not in here.
Right.
And
Yes.
so, what inspired you to write your book? Tell us about your book.
So I wrote a memoir. So the book is about my life and the lessons that I've learned in my life. And my book is called 2 Feet In Lessons from an All in Life.
Mm,
And what I realized is, and me changing careers, is just one example in the multiple careers I've had. I've also been married twice, divorced twice, got divorced when I was 6 months pregnant. People don't normally do those types of things.
mm,
Um, so what I realized when I reflected back on my life is that I approach problems and crossroads in the road slightly differently than most people. And when I make a decision, I stick to that decision. I just plow full steam ahead in that decision. And I don't let the negative chatter stop me from making a decision or from changing my mind or second guessing myself.
mhm,
And
mhm,
what I've learned from talking to lots of people is that's actually a skill. And most people don't move forward or don't take risks because the fear consumes them or they just can't trust themselves enough to make a decision. And I have learned how to approach it differently and to have a
mm.
different mindset around it. And so I felt like if I could motivate even one person and one woman to feel like she could take back her power and take control of her life, then writing my story and sharing my story would be worth it to share. So the book is written in that format is to not only tell my story, so it's very novelish because it's
Mhm.
self-help meets business meets romance novel all in the same thing. So it's very much like come have a cup of coffee with me and it's very interesting or a
Yeah.
glass of wine or a glass of wine. Um, but it's also designed to give people sort of a roadmap of how I approach these problems and books I read and things I journaled about and tools that I used and resources that were shared with me that I can now share with others collectively. And it's not to say that you have to do everything I do, but it's also about my wellness journey and my mindset and how I eat and how I exercise and the importance of mindset and my routines and things like that. And so if someone picks up one piece of information from my book and they think that's interesting and they implement that to their lives and they
Mhm.
feel like they have more control and that they have inner happiness within, because I really focus on wellness starts within you. And so it comes
Mhm.
within you as a person and also within your environment with what I do in design. And so the book focuses a lot on that too. But it was all about if my story can help someone, because I've walked the walk and talked the talk and have these lessons, and then they can shortcut it or have advice, then why not share my story?
I think that fear can show up for people in different things, and some fears they can face, and some fears completely, challenge them beyond what they feel like they can overcome. I
Right.
think it depends on how much it tips to the survival,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Or
if
tips
it's
outside their comfort zone. How far is it outside their comfort zone and how used to being in that space of uncomfortable are they?
hmm hmm Right. I mean, it could be a cultural thing. It could be definitely financial, because I think that's
Mhm.
probably the biggest fear.
Yes, for sure.
Um Fear of what people think of them, which could be kind of culture, I guess, or just, what your family is used to you being like, and then if you're just like, well, this isn't me, and you're
Right.
kind of changing who you are, they don't like it.
Right. Not
They're going to do
necessarily.
whatever they can to encourage you to
Mhm.
not go that way. And
Right.
it's a struggle. And some people do have to abandon um, friends and
Oh, yeah.
relationships along the
Mhm.
way, because it's just not going to fit their lifestyle. It's not going to fit their value system.
Right.
And
Oh, yeah.
I think that one thing I feel is pertinent to staying the course is developing a new value system that you can, you know, put your line in the sand and feel confident that you won't cross it. And you can let everybody know, like, I'm not crossing this line.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's hard. But what are some of the tools that you share in your book?
So journaling is a really big one for me. And coming from an advertising background, we used to just brainstorm on a whiteboard all the time. And a marketing background, you're taught to do that. And I found that journaling is actually the same thing for me. And I've used journaling in so many ways, ways to get past negative thinking and evolve it into positive thinking, ways to make sure I start every day with gratitude and with intentions and with understanding if I do certain things and certain actions during the day, will I view my day as a great day? And if I do those things, I will. Being grateful for something every day and actually writing it down, pen to paper. But I also use it a lot when I'm in a negative space and just sort of writing about that negativity to get it out there. And then
Mhm.
I'll flip it on the other side and I'll say, okay, let's write about all the times that the universe has provided for me and it has worked out. And depending on, how gray of a space I'm in, sometimes it's hard to think of those things. But I find
Yeah,
that
it is.
once you
Mhm.
really get started and you can have it be something really simple, like I thought I was going to run out of gas. And you know what? I actually made it to the gas station without running out of gas.
Mhm.
Or, some nice person came over and offered me an umbrella as I was walking into the store. They gave me a closer parking spot. Like if you start really simple, and then you just start writing and don't think about what you're writing and just write. And you can bullet it. And my handwriting's horrible. No one could read it but me, but I know what I'm writing about. And so as you just start to go, and if you stop controlling what you're writing about and controlling the thought process, it is amazing how all of a sudden you'll have 5, 6, 7, 8 pages worth of all the times that it did work out okay and that the universe provided and you didn't know what the result was going to be. But once you can see and reflect on those things, it
Mhm.
makes the fear much more manageable and something that you can control a lot more when you're like, I was really scared that at that time and
Mhm.
look. like, look where I am now, and look how strong I am now, or look what I've accomplished, or look what I overcame. And so for me, reminding myself that it really does all work out. It just might not work out the way you think, but it does work out, and that things happen for a reason. For me, helps get me back in a much more positive mindset.
I think one game changer for me was, I was always trying to control everything, how things were going to turn out. You make your goals
Yep.
and then you write the goals down and how you're going to get there and you make your
Mhm.
plans and then you work the plans and then you get the goal
Totally.
and then it
Mhm.
doesn't work out that way and you feel like
Right.
a failure. And when you just kind of let go a little bit and say, well, maybe this is going to turn out a different way.
Mhm.
Maybe I just do the best that I can in that direction and pause and listen to my inner wisdom a little bit more, that maybe that plan wasn't quite what is going to work, and listen to, instead of logic, listen to my heart, your inner wisdom, your intuition, and go, well, that doesn't make sense, but okay. And you just kind of
Right.
let go and say, all right, well, or to just wait and see how things are going to happen. I mean, that doesn't always make sense, but if you're more of looking at every day, moment by moment, rather than constantly looking in the future,
Right.
how can you attain happiness if you think happiness is in the future? You'll never
Right.
get it,
You'll
right?
never get there. You'll never get there. It's learning to remind yourself to be present and to stop the chatter that happens in your head that focuses so much on the future, and be present in the present and now. And that's why I think gratitude every morning is so important, because if you really sit down and just think about three things, whether you write them or you just think them in your mind when you first get up in the morning, three things you're grateful for, that's a really great way to start your day.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you pick up your phone and start doing something for work, your day could be turned upside down in a heartbeat. But at
Yeah.
least you gave your body and your brain that time to be in a better headspace to be able to
Hmm.
attack whatever that is that comes your way once you pick up your phone.
Well, and two, the morning is when your body has the highest cortisol levels.
Correct.
And I didn't know that. And I always had panic attacks in the morning,
Mm.
or
Yes.
just severe anxiety in the morning. Of course, I'm like, well, that explains why most people are dreading the day, is
Of
because
course. Of
they're feeling
course.
that cortisol,
Mm.
flowing through their veins. And of course, but once I realized that's what was going on, I could kind of flip the narrative for myself and go, okay, that's just something that I'm
Right.
feeling. It's not real. It's
Right.
not
Exactly. That's
real.
just my body. Right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So tell me, what do you feel like is the biggest fear you overcame?
It's still one that I work on, right? There's this huge, fear of failure. Being an entrepreneur comes with a whole new level of stress and pressure that I never imagined. Trying to run a business and all facets of a business, and now running two and about to start a third. So I think it's in my head. I see the vision of the success of all of these businesses. Otherwise, I wouldn't be
Mhm,
doing them. But
mhm,
it's the fear of, what if I'm wrong? What if
mhm.
I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? And that still lives there every day. And so I have to work just like anybody else does. I have to work to remind myself that, you're not wrong. Look what you've accomplished. Look at the response that you're getting. Look at the impact that you're making on people's lives, and to just keep going, because you're not wrong. But I'm human just like anybody else. So I still
Yeah,
have all
and you've
those
got to
fears.
go, am I still enjoying what I'm doing?
Right. Yeah, of course. And there are days that you don't. I mean, I work in a service business. There are days that you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah, I mean,
um,
yeah,
but
there's
but that's life,
mhm.
you don't love what you do every single day all the time. So that's life. So, I will say, if I could make a living as a podcaster, then that would be really great, because I do seem to really love that. But at the same time, it's the grass is never any greener on the other side. That comes with its own challenges. So,
Yeah.
I think you have to I say to people all the time is that if we feel like we're looking for happiness as a future state or something, you and I talked about this before, something on the outside, that's
Mhm.
not where it is. It's on the inside. And so
Mhm.
I look at it like it's inner peace. And if you can come up and understand a inner calm, an inner peace, an inner happiness, whatever you want to call it, that
Yeah.
starts from within you, that you have so much more control over than what is happening on the outside. And if you're looking outside to create that feeling inside, it's not going to happen. You have to start in first.
Well,
And
if
then once you have that, you can tackle these other things. And then you're
yeah.
also, I think, much more likely to be able to really feel and experience the happiness and joy as well.
Well, I think you can get a good taste of how you're doing by how your outer world is what's going on, because it's a reflection of your feelings and beliefs.
Yes.
And so if it's not quite going right, or you see a pattern of things happening over and over, then that must be a thought process that you continue to um, be running in your subconscious all the time.
Right.
I mean, the
Sure.
universe, whatever you tell it to do. I mean, if you're saying, "G- gimme, gimme, gimme," then the universe is going to go, okay, gimme, gimme, gimme. And then you feel like you got to work. Like, wait, hold on a second. I was asking you, and now
Right.
you're making me work really hard. But if you're showing appreciation and gratitude, then it's like, okay, here's some more stuff to be appreciative of
Right.
and grateful for. And that totally was something that when I realized that your life, your world is a mirror of what's going on in here,
Right.
then I felt like I had so much more control over that, instead of feeling like a plastic bag in the wind,
Right.
like
Right.
life's happening
You're
to
not the
me.
puppet. Right. You're not the guy at the end of the strings. You're the one controlling the strings. Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
what is something that you feel, um, I guess, as far as maybe like your big aha moment that kind of changed your mindset, your philosophy, your
Mm.
path, that just was
Mhm.
kind of like hit you and go,
Yep.
oh, what
Mhm.
what
Yeah.
what was that for you? Well, you might have had a few, but
I
what was the one
Yeah,
maybe?
there's a big one though. There's a really big one. So after I got fired, I really felt like work controlled my life, and my life and everything I did in life was dictated by work and when I worked and how I worked and when I was stressed, and they controlled travel and everything. And I was working all the time. And so after I got fired, I decided I was going to start my own business. I made a conscious decision to change the way I look at work life balance. And I said this out loud. I wrote about it. I said, I don't know why we call it work life balance. It is life work balance. And that is my goal in
I like that.
everything I do. And so in everything I do, it is life work balance. And it
Mhm,
doesn't mean that I don't work. Of course, I have to work. I have to make a living, but it can't come at the cost of my life. And
mhm.
it can't come at a cost with a stress level that, makes me sick. And it can't come at a cost that makes it so I can't enjoy my life and have vacation and be able to be experiencing life and be present and be there for my daughter. And so the decisions that I make on a daily basis are based on that philosophy that life has to come before work. And in some instances, that means that, very often I don't start work until 10 o'clock because it's really important for me to have my morning routine and to journal and to meditate and to exercise.
Are we
And
twins?
like I'm slightly obsessed with my morning schedule, but I also
Mhm.
like my sleep. Now that I'm older, I'm like, I'm not getting up too early. I got up at 5 for years. I'm not doing that anymore. I don't need to do that anymore. I work for myself. Um, so does that mean can I do it every single day? No, but I manage to get that morning routine in probably 5 to 6 days a week. And so that means in general, I don't start working until 10. Now, I work for myself. So I'm working at night sometimes. I'm working on the weekends. But that I get
Whenever you
to
feel like
control.
it.
Right, but that I get right. And it doesn't mean that I'm not responding to emails or doing stuff while I'm working out because I am. I'm not completely crazy. But to me, the life part of what I give to myself by my morning routine and the journaling and the meditating, like that keeps me calm. That is my time for me. Exercising is me giving to me. And so that is a priority, like 100% a priority. And so I have managed to create a career path that allows me to be able to do that. If I work for someone else, I wouldn't be able to do that, but that was my choice. And so in that instance, I put life first. Um, and then the work always comes, it happens. But
Yeah.
it is interesting how I make different choices. And sometimes, yeah, I mean, I'll give an example. Just last week, I had to go meet a client at 5 o'clock for a meeting. I was supposed to go to an event at a gallery, like an upscale, flashy event at a gallery, also for work. And then I was supposed to meet a friend for dinner. And I didn't want to cancel on my friend for dinner. So she agreed we were going to meet later. And the afternoon came and I'm like, I have so much to do. There's just too much. I'm so stressed. I have to go home and feed the dogs. Like there's just too much. So I didn't go to the gallery event. And even though I should have, it would have been a great networking opportunity. But you know what? It's okay. It's work. That's work. So I chose dinner with my girlfriend over that networking event because I hadn't seen her and really wanted to connect with her. And I was like, you know what? It's okay. That's okay. It's more important that I spend my time with you. And I reduced some of that stress and the running around and the craziness I'm feeling about how in the world am I going to get all dressed up and look all fancy and all of this nonsense. It was
For
making me crazy.
what? Yeah.
Right. For what? For yes, I could potentially network and meet somebody important, and that is important. But at the same time, what if I don't meet someone important? And I've sacrificed having
You.
time with my friend, and I've sacrificed me, and I've made myself
Mhm.
crazy in the interim of running around because I said yes to too many things. And so
Yes.
I had to take a stance and I was like, you know what? It's okay. I'm going to now say no. I said yes. I'm going to say no. I have too much going on and that's okay. And as soon as I made that decision, I could feel my chest like loosen up because I was so stressed
Mhm.
about having overcommitted to too many things.
Oh,
So,
yeah. I mean, even if it's like a job that maybe it's something you do well at, but that maybe the person that you work for or the culture or it's just sucking the life out of you. Um, how can you be a productive person and have a life work balance if that's just not a good fit for you?
right. Yeah.
And you have to make those decisions. I mean, I I come from a family who worked for the same company for 40 some years, 35 years, 28 years, and I'm like, no,
Right.
I will go where I feel like, it's home.
Right.
I mean, maybe not everybody can do that, but that's what I felt was important for me at the time. And I've done that. I even did that recently because I was helping out with somebody and I was like, no, this
Right.
isn't a good fit for me. It's not aligning
Right, and it doesn't fit,
with
and it
me.
doesn't align to your point, it doesn't align with your values, it doesn't feel right, and you learn over time after you've done this a little bit
Mm-hmm.
to listen to that intuition and listen to those sort of subtle voices in your head which make you question things and then figure out, you know what, it's okay. I'm going to say no to that because you know what, if I say no to that, something else that is more aligned will come in. And it's like that with people, it's like that with places, it's like that with things, it's like that with all kinds, all of those
Yeah.
categories. If you say no sometimes, and I do this with work, and I had a business coach who taught me this, and she said, if you keep saying yes to the wrong types of projects, you will never get the right type of project because you're telling the universe that the things you're saying yes to are what you want. And so
Yeah.
you need to say no. And I know it's scary as an entrepreneur because you need to make money. And I'm like, uh-huh, yeah. But she said, if you keep saying yes to the wrong things, you will keep getting more of the wrong things. And so,
That's
you
so
know,
true because there's so many shiny objects out there for the
right.
entrepreneur. And you could
Yeah.
be really doing, oh, what about this? Oh, well, maybe I should do my job this way. Or, I
Right.
started down this
Yeah.
path, but somebody else is doing it this way now. Maybe that's better. And
Right.
then there's always going to be a better, there's always
There's
going to be a better. And
always
you're always going to be comparing yourself to somebody else or somebody's way ahead of
correct.
you. And you're like, oh, I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing right. No, just follow your bliss,
You do
follow
you.
what you do it your way because
Yeah.
that's what people are going to be attracted to you because you're doing it out of your own love and your own alignment. Because
Right.
if you're trying to be somebody else, they're gonna sense the difference.
Correct. Right. And
Uh,
Gabby Bernstein, I did a seminar with Gabby Bernstein earlier in the year, and she one day talked about this, and I thought it was so impactful. She said, when you see people that have something that you aspire to have, but yet you don't have it yet. So whether it's success or a relationship or a baby, whatever it is, a house, don't look at it and feel resentment or
mhm.
anger or negativity towards they have and you don't. Don't look at it like that. What you need to do is turn the way you look at it and say, you know what? The universe is showing me what's possible. And thank you, universe, for showing me what might be possible for my future. Because if I
Mhm.
didn't see it, then I wouldn't know. And it's just like that
Yes.
with a career. If you don't get to see other people talk about how they have found happy, like listen to your podcast, right? Like if you don't
Right.
get to experience how other people have made changes in their lives and found they're happy, don't look at it like they found it. I don't look at it like, oh, wow. I have listened to all these people on this amazing podcast who have shown me how they've found they're happy. That's telling me a sign that I can find that too. And my happy doesn't have to be somebody else's happy.
Yes.
It's just showing me that it's possible,
It can be done.
that it
Yeah.
can be
If they
done.
can do it,
Right.
I can do it.
That's
Yeah.
exactly it. Right. I mean, that's like our old school mantras from when we were little. So
Yeah. And I think too, if you take it like an opinion of, well, wouldn't it be cool if this happened instead of I'm not going to be happy
right.
until this happens? Because then you're going to be constantly chasing that just for the sake of happiness. If you're just kind of
Correct.
figure out your happiness first and be okay with what is now, it doesn't mean you're settling, doesn't mean you
Mhm.
don't want to expand and
No.
experience other things, but be content and happy where you are and then go, ooh, I would like to try that. That would be
Right.
fun. That would be
Yeah.
really cool. I would like to
Yeah.
experience that for the sake of
Yes.
for fun.
Growth, fun, whatever. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, um I really like to share with people how a lot of times we're reacting to what life gives us, and we're not really discovering who we are or how we're individually made, how we're wired, how we tick as an individual, because we're wired uh mentally to compare ourselves to, are we normal with
Right.
this group of people or these values or these beliefs. But maybe we are all individuals, we're all snowflakes, we're all thumbprints, right? um but a lot of people just aren't taking the time to discover themselves and how they tick and how they work, and developing that relationship with ourselves so that we can learn and appreciate and be grateful for who we are and take care of ourselves. So many people can't even barely look in the mirror.
Mhm.
They don't like to see a picture of themselves. They don't find themselves worthy for whatever reason. Did you have any time of your life that you had to do some self-respect, self retrospect, to kind of dive in and have that discovery help you in your journey?
Oh, so many times. So many. Um, you know, uh, Part of after I got fired was trying to figure out who I am and what if I were to describe happy, what would that look like? And really forcing yourself to really think about what does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
And it's everything from what would my daily routine be like to who would the people who are in my life be like? What would my environment be like? How would I physically feel? How would I physically look? And really taking stock of all aspects of my life
Mm-hmm.
and really asking some really hard questions about, when you do that, you also have to ask the really hard questions about, okay, who is in your life then? And making some really hard reflective decisions
Mm-hmm.
that some people are not meant to be in that narrative of after you've defined that, taking a really hard look inward and making some choices about where you work, where you live, who's in your life, the importance of how you eat. I became a vegan for 2 years, and that was a really good choice at the time for
Mhm.
me, for my health. And so when you do that, you have to be willing to follow it all the way through and say, you know what, some people, and after I lost my job, I also lost one of my best friends at the same time by losing that job. And for
Mm.
a long, long time, that was, I would say for the first 3 years, that was so painful to have lost
Yeah.
that best friend. But now I can look back at it and say, but you know what? That's because that person isn't the right energy for where I am today. And that person wouldn't be right for the new life that I've built for myself today. And it doesn't diminish the value that person had in my life at that time. It was tremendous, and I'm so grateful for it. It just means that we evolve and we change, and the things that we need are different when you really have to reflect and force yourself to honestly do the hard work of
Yeah.
figuring out, who do you want to be?
Yeah, and I think that, you hit on that, I guess, like, you had that, like, attachment, I guess, of that friend in that environment, and that's another thing that I feel is super important, that sometimes when you are on your journey, you can't move forward unless you kind of let go of
Let go.
an attachment
Correct.
of how something's going to be, or a somebody, or
Mhm.
a thing. Maybe it's something you just have to let go of, that's
Right.
a physical. um you might lose it, like, I've
Right.
been divorced too, and there's some
Right.
things that I lost in the divorce. I just
You
have to
do.
let
You
go of
have to let
that.
it go. You have to let it go. And even the timeline, I find this, I talk
Mm.
about this a lot when I
Oh
speak
yeah.
to different people in different groups. Letting go of the timeline that
Yeah.
society and we have put on ourselves.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it's for when things should happen, when you should get promoted, when you should get married, when you should have a child, when you need to buy a house. Oh, you're an entrepreneur, you start a business, you need to be making money by year two. It's the timelines of things. And if you get so caught up in the timeline of when things should happen, you're like off in the future as opposed to living in the present. And I
Hmm.
do find it's really helpful if you let go of the timeline a little bit
Yeah,
and let
because
things
you're
unfold.
working upstream. You're
Right.
trying to work harder to make it happen within a certain period of time.
Right.
um and I feel like, when I'm a big, huge student of the law of attraction. I have
Yeah.
been since 2008. And it I've learned it pretty well. And what I've learned is the timeline kind of coincides with your belief system,
Right.
or you have to allow, because maybe if it's a big thing, the universe has to align things for you for that to happen.
Hmm.
Like, it's almost kind of like, well, I want this. I want my dream home. And when the universe goes, okay, but we've got some things we got to work on in the background. This
First.
has happened.
Right.
This has happened. This has happened.
Yeah.
We got
Hmm.
to align some things, and you don't know what's all getting lined up for you. And
Right.
so it's when you have patience and continue to dream about it and get clear on what you want. Because I feel like the clearer you are, uh, the more the universe can work with it and go, okay, and now I know what you want. Now you have to be flexible, that um it's not exactly has to be
Right.
exactly this. I mean, obviously, if you're trying to have it turn out to specifics in order for you to be happy, then you're going at it the wrong way,
Right.
because you're going to be happy no matter how it turns out if you're already
Yeah.
happy, right?
Right. Yes. Exactly. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't focus on the how, focus on the what.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how is this going to turn out? When and with
Yeah.
who?
Right.
And
Right. Don't focus on that. No.
yeah, I had a dream car that I had put on my vision board,
Hmm.
and I didn't know how I was going to get it. I just kind of put it up on there, kind of whimsically.
Right.
And my boyfriend said that he was going to buy one, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm glad you think you can, but I'm
Right.
just going to put it
Right.
on my vision board. That's all I'm going to do. And so long story short, he ended up getting a different color of the car that I wanted.
Hmm.
And he was just going to resell it. And I'm like, well, I guess this is kind of close to what I had on my vision board. You know, it's not quite the right color, but
Right.
it is a convertible. It's about the same year. It's, you know, what I wanted. And,
Close. Yep.
but I'll just enjoy it vicariously through him.
Right. Yep.
And then, I, I came, um, just attracted some money in my life, and he goes, do you want to buy the car from me? He said, I've got to buy this other car, and because it's ready for me, and I hadn't anticipated paying for it yet, and I thought I would have sold this one by now. So do you want it? And I said, okay. You know, so I didn't really go out shopping for it. And I said, but I still really can't afford to pay you back. Really, I can't get a loan right now. At that time. And he said, well, just pay the bills monthly until it's paid off.
Nice.
Okay.
Okay.
And then like, well, it's not quite the color that I wanted. And so I'm like, well, oh well, I was close, you know.
Hmm.
And then for Christmas, he wrapped it in the color that I wanted.
Love it. That's so great.
So now I have it.
So
And
now you have it. Yeah.
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 So I did not orchestrate how I was going to get that car.
Right. Yes. Yes. And
So
if you
that,
had even tried, you wouldn't have probably.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was actually quite hard to get them at the time. Um,
Mm.
so it just happened that he knew somebody was wanting a newer one or something
Right.
else, and then he wanted to get rid of it, and he happened to know him, and so it just everything had to align up. I just had to
Right.
let go and kind of go, wouldn't it be cool if I had that car? You
Right. Wouldn't it
know?
be nice if? Right. Right.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. And then leave the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So have
And
you
trust.
had any experiences of law of attraction yourself that you kind of
I,
played with?
I mean, I do. I have one right now that I'm sort of working on. I put on my I put on my big picture goals this year for my book that I wanted to get my book into the hands of Jenna Bush Hager. And she has a huge book club. She's on the Today Show. She also lives a couple towns away from me, and I just felt like I think my book would resonate with her. I think it would really resonate with her readers and with her audience, and
Mhm.
I think it would resonate with her personally. And I just felt like I have to know someone who knows her because she lives close to me. So because I was like, you know what? Think big, go big, go big. I started the year off like go big, right? And so go big and don't think I can't get to that. Just go big.
Mhm.
And I was like, that is my goal. And I have it in my to-do list every single week. And every week I do something to get towards that. And I found someone who knows her cousin, and her cousin let me send my book to her along with a letter, and she's giving her my book today. And
And
so I don't know what's gonna happen from it, I do have some asks, some things I'd love to do with her,
mhm.
to help promote my mission from a larger brand perspective, but I just felt like, I didn't know that that's how I was going to get my book to her. I had no idea, and the woman that I asked, it didn't even occur to me to ask her. I had asked lots of other people if they knew someone who knew someone, and all of a sudden, I was meditating, and at the end, I was like, "Oh my goodness, why I need to ask Sarah. She might know someone." And I just like, there's no harm in asking, getting comfortable with the ask, right? And so it's just like asking the universe, get comfortable with the ask. And so I just sent her a note. I'm like, hey, by any chance, do you know someone who knows her? And she's like, yeah, I know her cousin, and they're like best friends. It's like, oh my goodness, you got to be kidding me. It was that. She's like, let me email her and see if she would, give her your book. And then it kind of just like went from there. Um, so I think, in that sense, I didn't know how I was going to get to her, and I still have no idea what's going to happen from it.
Mhm.
I just know that I put that out there as a goal based on what I'm trying to accomplish for myself and for my larger business. And I kind of left it up to the universe to figure out how to make that connection happen.
There are so many times where I have wished for something and they got like just like I gave an example of my car, and I got kind of close to it. And I was like, wow, I got pretty close.
Yeah.
And then the universe goes, oh, you like that? Well, let's get closer. And so it's almost like that, with you, you're like, oh, but this is great. I know somebody who
Right,
knows somebody,
right.
maybe something will happen.
Maybe something
And
will happen,
yeah. And then, and
and
then it gets closer and you're like, oh,
then it gets
maybe there's
closer.
something else that
And I'm
happen,
like, maybe something else will happen, and you have to be good with the ask. That's the other thing I've really learned is you have to ask, and you have to ask the universe for what you want. You have to be very specific about what it is you want. You have to be very clear on what those things are, and you also have to be comfortable asking other people to help you, and being okay if they say no. And Jenna might say no to my ask, but you know
Mhm.
what? She also might say yes.
Did you notice that when you were in sales? Because I was in
Y
sales too.
yes, 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 you have to be comfortable with the ask. The worst thing that they're gonna do is say no. Um,
That is like, it was a game changer for me, is
yeah,
to not fear asking and be there were times where I was like, they're just gonna say no. So I'm just gonna ask anyway, because they'll probably say
mhm,
no. And so I would ask, and then I was almost to get thrown off guard when they're like, okay, yeah, I'd like to know about it. And then I'm like, what, wait, what?
yeah. Oh, yeah, no, I have that happen in my business now. I'll, like, put something out there for someone, I'll be like, "There's no way they're gonna say yes to this," and then they come back, they're like, "Oh, yeah, we're actually interested." I'm like, "Oh my goodness, really?" Because someone else's story and someone else's
Mhm.
story with money or whatever it is, you can't project your story onto someone else, and so when you're thinking they're going to respond a certain way, that's just you projecting your story onto
Yeah.
them. That's
Yeah.
not allowing them to be who they are and have their response, which is unique to them. And so it's like, don't project onto someone else how they're going to respond to you. Let them be themselves and you worry about you.
Yeah. Just put it out there and let it go. Let go.
Let it go.
And it's
Let it go.
hard. It is
So
hard,
hard. Oh my
but you have to
goodness. So
constantly
hard.
remind yourself, like, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah, you
If they
will.
don't
Right.
like it, it's
It's okay.
okay.
It's okay. Right. Yep. It'll all
Especially
work
as
out.
perfectionists and people pleasers and,
Totally. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Type A. You're like, what do you mean you don't see how great this is?
right. Right.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All
Well,
right.
Jean, it has been a pleasure speaking with you. I feel like we have so much in common.
I love that.
Because
Thank you.
I'm picking up, I'm like, okay, I said twin thing already once, so I don't think I'm gonna say it again. But I picked up on a lot of other things that we're very much alike. Way into my 50s as well. And I was also divorced, and midlife go, I want to be an entrepreneur, and all this. So yeah, I totally align with yeah, your story. And it just it's exciting to talk to like-minded people who um just want to help others, just kind of go, you know what, like, take a look at you know your life, and don't be afraid to make some changes. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it is one of, and you're so fortunate, and I am as well, is that we have a platform to be able to share. And I think part of that gift is that you allow people to be able to connect. And so I get to connect with you and you get to connect with me, but then other people get to connect with us as well. And I think there is so much power in being able to connect with someone else. And it helps you feel like you're not alone and helps empower people to take more control and create more of the life of their dreams if they feel that they're not alone. So I think, your platform is incredibly powerful. So thank you for it.
Well, thank you. So I always ask my guests to share their favorite quote.
Oh, I have one ready. So in my book, here we go. Not that anyone can see that, but so one of my favorite quotes is actually at the back of my book. It's the last part of my book, and it's by Steve Jobs, and it says, "You cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. This approach has never let me down, and it has made all the difference in my life."
I love that. I love that. That's funny. That's so true, because we really can't, like, vision is 20, it's
2020.
2020.
Hindsight's 2020. Exactly.
Hindsight, right,
Yep.
is
Mhm.
2020.
Yep.
And so have trust that things are aligning up, because you can't see them lining up now, but you're going to go, oh, look how well they aligned up,
Right. When you look back, you're like, "Oh,
Right.
wow, that happened and that happened, and then that created this, and that led me down this path, and then I met this person, and then that person I
Yes.
met this, and then I got to experience that or go here." It's all but you see it when you look backwards, if you actually reflect backwards, and that's one of the things I really enjoy about doing the exercises of journaling about the times the universe provided, because it forces me to look backwards and see how the dots did connect, to an outcome that I wanted, because trying to figure out, especially as an entrepreneur, when you start your business, trying to figure out all the pieces, you can be
Mhm.
paralyzed and never move forward at all.
Mhm.
Instead, just focusing on little tiny things and just marching yourself forward one little step at a time, is how you can launch a business. If you try to tackle every aspect of starting your own business all at once, it's very overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, so I also ask my guests, what is your happy hat?
So, right lately, this is my new one. I have lots of them, but this one is the one that I love right now. So, in January, I decided I wanted to learn to play the piano. And I used to play when I was little and don't remember a thing. And so I started taking piano lessons, and I do it every week and I practice every day. And I have found that playing the piano, if I am stressed or anxious, if I go and I play the piano for a little while, it is the greatest thing I can do for myself, because I have to focus so much on the music and the notes and playing it that my brain doesn't have time to think about what I'm worried about and what I'm stressed about. So it gives my brain a chance to pause what the chatter that's going on. And it also, it leaves me with such a sense of creativity and calm. And I have 3 dogs, and they come in the room when I play the piano, and they all just lie there the entire time, as calm and peaceful as can be, and that is not their normal state. And so I
So
just
if
have
you need a household
found
calm, then
I
that
you
helps
need a piano,
everybody.
right. I just have found, and I never would have thought, because in the beginning I thought, "Oh, this is gonna be a little frustrating," because I don't remember how to play and I don't remember the music and stuff, and I thought I would be a little bit frustrated, but it's turned out to be the exact opposite, where it
Mhm.
really is my outlet to get back in touch with me and to pause my brain and get back into something creative. And every time after I practice and I get up and I walk away, I'm like, I just feel so much better. I really do. It helps me just refocus and get back to being grounded.
And I feel like those creative outlets are a way of you having that commonality with your higher self, your inner wisdom,
Yeah.
your higher consciousness, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
It's almost that is your key up into
Yeah.
that,
Yep.
whether it's music or dance or um painting
Painting,
or making
writing,
pottery
so
or
many things.
writing.
Cooking. I find cooking is another one. I love to cook. I find that is very therapeutic as well,
Yeah.
because you're
You know,
creating something with your hands. It's
e-
amazing.
exactly. And to find that, everybody has to find that. Doesn't matter what it is. Just
No.
find something that you love to create. My daughter was saying, I don't have a hobby. I said, but you're making people beautiful all day. She's a hairdresser.
Oh,
And
yeah, of
and I
course.
was like, you're doing your
Right.
hobby
Right.
for
A living.
your living,
Right. Right.
and the like when I paint and someone enjoys the painting that I did for them, that's also a reward. It's not more of less, it's not an ego thing. It is more of like a love offering. Like when someone asks me to do a painting or something, I'm thinking of them and I'm thinking
Mm.
about how much maybe they love this person that they are wanting me to paint, or
Mhm.
maybe it's a dog or whatever, and what that I always ask them what that person was like so that I can kind of infuse that feeling and emotion into it. And that's part of the connection, the overall consciousness that I'm sharing with them and they're sharing with me. And then when it comes to something physical and that I'm able to share it back to them in the physical, and they're like, oh, you know, I cry and they cry.
Right. Right. Yep.
And I think music moves people just as well. I mean,
Mhm.
how many times have you listen to a song that just makes you cry, or it reminds you of something that just gives you that elative feeling, or a memory that you loved, or you just love to sing the song, it gives you
Hmm.
goosebumps,
Right.
So there's, I think everybody needs to find that,
Right.
find
Yeah,
whatever
I
that
agree.
is,
Hmm.
and partake in it as often as you can. And so yeah, that is one of my favorite happy hacks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yes,
me too.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So tell the listeners what you've got going and how they can get in touch with you, and maybe work with you directly.
So I'm super active on Instagram. So my handle at Instagram is at JerMar Designs. So it's
Okay.
JerMar_Designs.
Okay.
So people can DM me there. You can link to my website, JerMarDesigns.com. You can email me off of that. I'm on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, all of those channels, but Instagram definitely is the one that I'm the most active on.
Okay.
And my book is available in every platform, on Amazon or any online retailer. So it's 2 Feet In, Lessons from an All-in Life. It's also available in an audio format. I recorded it so you can listen to me for 5.5 hours,
Wow.
which I
That's
have
quite the
done. In
undertaking.
addition to recording it, I have actually listened to myself, and I do on many occasions, actually, when I kind of need a pick me up, I go back and I listen to certain chapters. And so that's available anywhere you want an audiobook. And then the book is also available in all formats on Amazon as well.
That's fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
you guys check Jeanne out. I'm going to be listing all of the links in the description so they can find you in whatever platform they,
They
favor the
want.
most. And
Perfect.
yeah, so check her out. Well, thank you, Jeanne, for coming to the Create Happy Now podcast. It was very much a pleasure to get to know you. And I hope we stay in touch and continue to, connect, and maybe come back on the show again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Susan. It was lovely to get to speak to you. And I love connecting with someone that I feel like has a similar journey, similar purpose in life. So it's been really inspiring. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Create Happy Now podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, and if you are watching on YouTube, hit that notification bell. If you have a topic to suggest, please leave a comment below. Catch the Create Happy Now podcast on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, Audible, iHeartRadio, Player FM, Listen Notes, and Podchaser. Check out other YouTube videos on the Create Happy Now YouTube channel. And if you want more, check down below for resources, courses, and events, or go to www.createhappynow.com.